In this week of a running back class, in this year's Dynasty rookie class, you may think that ranking the overall of all of these prospects is actually a harder process. Well, because of the wide receivers being basically just condensed into a massively juiced up pool of wide receivers, it makes it a lot easier. And honestly, the quarterbacks make it easier too, because the quarterbacks got some really good high upside dynasty prospects, just like the wide receiver position does. And that's what we're sorting through today. Today, we are getting into the top 15 2024 Dynasty rookie rankings here. This is a new channel exclusively for Dynasty Fantasy Football. So please go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support if you get value from this video today. Let's go ahead and dive into these rankings right now. So I wanted to just first clarify something right here. You're going to see Marvin Harrison one spot over Caleb Williams right here. And the quarterbacks obviously shake things up because I'm considering this sort of a super flex hybrid type of deal to where I'm going to be ranking these quarterbacks just as I see fit in this Dynasty rookie class. Now, even being in super flex, I still prefer Marvin Harrison Jr. over Caleb Williams, and I'll tell you why. So Marvin Harrison Jr., even in February, in mid-February when we are taping this on Thursday night of February the 15th, Marvin Harrison Jr. is still expected to be a top 5 draft pick in the NFL draft. Marvin Harrison Jr., I've discussed him at length on several videos on this channel, and on Patreon, I've broken down his film, and you got to see exactly how I felt about Marvin Harrison Jr. on Patreon. So if you are interested in breaking down rookies with me on film, join the Patreon today. Marvin Harrison Jr. really doesn't have a weakness I can identify. That's just really what we're looking at here. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in a situation where he is coming into the NFL with every box checked for me in my wide receiver prospect model. He was an early breakout. He had a good target share in his final season in college. He had good production because he could separate, and his film was A+. A+ for that reason. At that size, he can separate and do a lot of things, which enables him to run a full route tree. The only box he needs to check is the NFL draft capital. And like I said, we're basically knowing that he's going to be a lock unless something goes horrifically wrong. Now, to juxtapose that with Caleb Williams, which is like what I want to do right here, is to say this. Listen, Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's class. That is obviously going to be great for his leash in the NFL because the team who drafts him, whether it's the Chicago Bears or whether they end up trading that pick, they probably won't do that. Whoever takes him, they're going to give him a long leash. Well, here's my problem, is that if the Chicago Bears take Caleb Williams, are we just assuming that Caleb Williams is going to be an automatic lock to be a great player? Look at what happened to Bryce Young last year. Granted, not nearly as great of a prospect as Caleb Williams, but Bryce Young got drafted into a horrific situation. Bad ownership, bad coaching staff, just another disaster. And his rookie season reflected the internal disaster. The Chicago Bears, I understand that they have a long-standing history and they are a relatively strong brand in the NFL. Here's the reality. They've never had a 4,000-yard thrower, ever. In the history of their franchise, ever. Not even Jay Cutler. This is not a sure thing here with Caleb Williams if he ends up being a Chicago Bear. So even if Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to the New England Patriots in the draft, are we just automatically going to say that he's in a worse spot than Caleb Williams is? I'm not saying that. And that's exactly why I've got him one spot over Caleb Williams. At number 3, I've got Drake May. And this one is probably going to be contested as well because he's one spot over Malik Neighbors. So, again, my whole rationale for this is when I look at Drake May and I see the prospect that I believe him to be. Drake May has a lot of good qualities. He's big. He's got the prototypical size that you would like at the quarterback position. He's also athletic enough and mobile enough to move around and extend plays out of the pocket. You're not going to get a 600, 700 rushing yard season from Drake May. That's not what we're drafting him for. We're drafting him because he's got a very good arm. He's the accuracy dipped in 2023, which is the only concern I have with him. But in 2022, 66% completion percentage. Dropped down 3 points right there to 63. So that's the only concern. But the arm strength is above average, well above average. The athleticism is well above average. He can extend plays. Now, obviously, Drake May is going to also go probably top 3 in this draft. Again, things can change here. I've seen a lot of people have doubts about Drake May around this time of year. So we'll see what happens in the next month or two, especially with the combine coming up at the end of this month and into early March. Now, the reason I have him above Malik Neighbors is not because I don't like Malik Neighbors. I do. I think he's a very good prospect in this year's Dynasty rookie class. I've said this on my wide receiver rankings video. I have a long-standing affinity for LSU wide receivers, whether it turned out to be right with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, or whether it turned out to be really wrong with guys like Terrace Marshall, DJ Chark, just to name a couple recent ones. There's a lot of things I like about Malik Neighbors. I think that his production profile is sweet. He's an early breakout. Dude was productive immediately. There's some weaknesses in his game. And again, I highlighted them in the film breakdown section of Patreon. So come watch the film with me on Malik Neighbors, because I think you'll see exactly what I'm talking about here. He has some weaknesses in man coverage, and I extend on that a lot in those videos where I break down his film. Specifically against Alabama, there's a lot that I picked apart. So Malik Neighbors, the way I look at it is I do believe that he is still, obviously, like I said, great prospect. I'm not trying to down him. What I'm saying, though, is I believe a quarterback with significant draft capital, Drake May, someone who could go to a Washington Commanders, right, with Cliff Kingsbury as that offensive coordinator. Just throwing it out there, it's a possibility. Whereas I go with Malik Neighbors, and it's like, I think he's a very good prospect as well. Probably go top 10. Maybe he goes to the Chargers and it ends up being great. Maybe he ends up going to another bad place. Who knows what happens, right? So there's a lot of things that I think can go wrong with both of these guys, but I do think that they're both very good prospects in this year's class. At number 5, I've got Rome Odunze, one spot over Jaden Daniels. So Rome Odunze is, I said this in my wide receiver rankings video, he is 2B to Malik Neighbors 2A. They've gone back and forth for me for over a year at this point. Like, they have been wrestling for that number 2 spot behind Marvin, who is the clear number 1. They've been wrestling for that 2 spot for over a year now. So it's in a situation where it's like, Rome Odunze, I don't think has the same versatility and same skill set that Malik Neighbors has. They're different players for sure. I think Malik Neighbors is a little bit more, versatile, and I think he can fit in a lot of different places. I look at Rome Odunze and I'm like, this guy was a junior year breakout. That's not a very good thing. That's not something I'm looking for. His target share was actually abysmal in his last year in college. And when you look at when he dominated with Washington, Kalen DuBoer's offense, was that a massive part of it? I think it's worth questioning. What you can't question is his contested catch rate. It's absolutely outrageous. This is like historic numbers right here that you see on the screen. So there's a lot of things, again, to like about Rome Odunze. I do wonder, if he goes to a defensive team with a defensive culture, a defensive head coach, and they don't spend as much time on the offensive scheming, is this guy just a one-trick pony? I don't know. I think it's possible. I like the prospect, though. And Jaden Daniels at 6 is just me showing my love and appreciation for a running quarterback. That's what it comes down to. Jaden Daniels, I don't know where he's going to go in the NFL draft. I would bet he'll probably go first rounder coming off a Heisman season. This guy is not a young spring chicken, though. He's in his mid-20s basically at this point, and he didn't have a great college career throughout. So there's weaknesses here with Jaden Daniels. What can't be denied, though, is the sweet rushing upside that he provides. It's just crazy what he can do on the ground. So there's a lot of positives to Jane Daniels. I think just with that rushing upside, he has tons of dynasty upside, especially for the first 5 years or so, if he hits. That's the big thing. He needs to get a good offensive coach to have a similar career arc of Lamar Jackson, who is obviously on the very high end, but the athleticism that he has, it definitely presents that kind of upside if he gets the right coach. Brock Bowers at number 7 and Jonathan Brooks at number 8. Brock Bowers, I said this the other day, I think Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect since Kyle Pitts in 2021. Brock Bowers has really been viewed as an elite tight end prospect for years now. It's kind of like the Caleb Williams situation at quarterback. Brock Bowers has been well-renowned and well-known by the Dynasty community for many, many years now. It's for very good reason. Brock Bowers is a very good player. And I do think that, again, if he goes to the right situation, he can definitely thrive. What I will caution is this. He is at number 7 on this list right here. The 107 is the highest I would draft Brock Bowers at. I don't care what format we're talking about here. Superflex or one quarterback, I don't care. Brock Bowers, I would prefer to get him at the 108 and beyond. And who knows if that's likely going to happen in your particular league and how your league values tight ends. But what I'll tell you is this. Sam Laporta in 2023 had a historic rookie season. He was not a very well touted prospect. So I think that there's going to be a lot of people in the Dynasty community. This is a hunch of mine. I think there's a lot of people in the Dynasty community who are going to take the shot on Michael Mayer this very early, on Brock Bowers this early in the draft and even earlier because they saw Sam Laporta do it and set the blueprint. It's not a blueprint. That was an outlier season. For a team to have their rookie tight end as involved as Sam Laporta was, historically unprecedented. Don't count on it from Brock Bowers. I think it's unfair, and I think you'll come away very disappointed if you overdraft him. Jonathan Brooks, he's got to be above him, though, because I think Brock Bowers is a better prospect. Jonathan Brooks, I do believe, is the best running back prospect in this class, and he's a Texas running back, right? So we followed Bijan Robinson. So we basically have 1 year of production from Jonathan Brooks to look at. In the 1 year, he was very good. My pro comp for him is Isaiah Pacheco. This guy runs very hard with purpose. He's also got plenty of burst and vision. This guy can catch the ball. I would not say he doesn't have a tremendous receiving profile. I wish he did more of it because I think he's capable of more, and it could be a situation where he gets in the NFL and catches a lot more passes. It very well could be that. Jonathan Brooks, we're very interested to see what happens with him at the Combine. The Combine is a big deal for running backs. You need to know what their size measurables are. Is he going to be over 205, 210 pounds? If so, we're in good shape. We also need to know what his 40 time is, because that is going to dictate where he's going to go in the draft. If he gets a 4.4, this guy will be probably a second round pick. Jonathan Brooks, still some questions unanswered here, but as of right now, before the Combine, I do believe is the best running back prospect in the class and deserves to be here at number 8. Brian Thomas Jr. at 9 and Troy Franklin at 10. Now, these guys are also very close to me. I discussed this in my wide receivers video. I think Brian Thomas can very easily go to my wide receiver 5 if Troy Franklin outperforms him in certain metrics of the Combine. Now, Brian Thomas Jr., the thing I like about him right now over Troy Franklin is that I have made the argument, and I will make it again. I believe that he could be the most physically gifted wide receiver in this class. More than Marvin Harrison Jr. Physical gifts, not production profile, not prospect level. We're not saying that. What I am saying, though, is I do believe that this guy is possibly the most physically gifted in this class. He's got the size you want. He's a big, thick wide receiver who also is really fast at that size. Again, we'll see what his 40 time is if he competes in the 40. Brian Thomas Jr., I do also believe, has a chance to go at the back of the first round and go to a very good team that needs a wide receiver. Kansas City rings a bell. Buffalo, yeah, they're going to need a wide receiver as well. Brian Thomas Jr., I think, has significant upside in Dynasty. Do not sleep on Brian Thomas Jr. Just because there's another great LSU receiver in this class, do not sleep on Brian Thomas. But I think Troy Franklin is good as well. You know, Troy Franklin, I was talking to some buddies about him a couple weeks ago, and they were not nearly as big on him as I am. I think Troy Franklin is a very good prospect. My pro con for him is Michael Pittman Jr. I think that Troy Franklin checks a lot of boxes. I think on film, you may look at this guy, and he does resemble, just physically, a wide receiver from the 2023 class that was what I thought he would be, a one-trick pony in his first year with the New York Giants, and that was Jalen Hyatt. If you just look at them physically, they look similar, but watch their film. Jalen Hyatt was not nearly as diverse in his route tree as Troy Franklin was. Troy Franklin went over the middle of the field. He was very, very good in middle tier routes. 5 to 10 yard curl routes. He went deep as well. Troy Franklin has a diverse skill set, and that leads to him having a better target share than Jalen Hyatt had in 2023, and also being more important to the offense. So I think Troy Franklin, like I said, if there's some things that go right, and we start hearing that he could sneak into the first round, he very well may pass up Brian Thomas Jr. because I think of him as actually a more refined prospect than Brian Thomas Jr. is. Keon Coleman at number 11 and Michael Penix Jr. at 12. So Keon Coleman is the wide receiver that I think is going to be the most polarizing in this class when we come to by the time the draft hits. I think over the next couple of weeks and months, Keon Coleman will get more significant hype in this class. This is a prediction I am setting right now. Keon Coleman, if you just watch this guy on film, you would think he's the wide receiver 2 or 3. He is outstanding on film. Just watch his highlights. You're gonna have a great time. Don't watch his film, watch his highlights, because this guy is ridiculous. The vertical on this guy, I'm telling you, is going to be insane. It's going to be 40 plus inches. I mean, the way he can climb the ladder, and he's got big hands too, big sticky hands. This guy makes incredible Odell Beckham-like catches. He's a naturally gifted athlete. The problem is, never crossed 1,000 yards. The production profile is just not there. And there's not consistency enough. Even when there was Jordan Travis at quarterback at Florida State, Keon Coleman just wasn't consistent enough. He had a lot of games where he disappeared. Couple 100 plus yard receiving games is not going to do it for me. So Keon Coleman, high upside, but this guy is not a surefire prospect. He's actually probably the definition of a boomer bust guy. Michael Penix Jr., listen, last year at this time, he was my quarterback 3. I believed in him more than J.J. McCarthy, more than Bo Nix, more than Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels' season happened, and it's like, okay, well, he displayed all kinds of rushing upside that we knew he had, but he had an elite rushing season for a quarterback. And now he's getting significant hype in this class like he's going to go in the first round. Michael Penix Jr., where does that land to him? He's got a great deep ball. It's one of the most beautiful deep balls I've seen. Honestly, I don't think there's more than 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that throw a prettier deep ball than Michael Penix does. I don't think there is. Again, it begs the question what I did with Rome Odunze, though. Is he a product of Kalen DuBois' system? We'll find out fast, because this guy does not have elite physical traits. He's small. He looks and reminds me very much of Tua Tagovailoa. He's small, and he does not exactly have great mobility. And we saw a little bit of a glimpse into the potential problems that Tua faces throughout his career with injuries against Michigan in that championship game. Michael Penix got beat up by Michigan. What happens if Michael Penix goes to a team with a bad offensive line? I don't think good things. So there's problems here, but I do like the prospect here. And I think if he goes to the right team, I think he could be a very effective quarterback in Dynasty. Bucky Irving at number 13. Bucky Irving is a guy that I believe could be a very fast riser. Bucky Irving, running back out of Oregon. This guy is efficient. He's explosive. He's got great vision. And his one-cut ability is actually devastating. He leaves a lot of defenders on the floor with a one-cut. It's fun to watch him. We'll break down his film on Patreon if you're interested. Bucky Irving has a lot of receiving capabilities as well. His receiving profile, very, very strong. So Bucky Irving, there's a lot of things that need to happen, specifically at the combine though. If he comes in, weighs 195 or 200 plus, you're going to see people jump on this guy. If he runs a 4.40, you're going to see people jump on this guy. He is a very high upside prospect. The receiving capability, the rushing efficiency, the workload he handled with Oregon. If this guy tests with decent numbers in the weight class and in the speed category, we're going to see Bucky Irving jump up, possibly be the running back one in this Dynasty class. And then to round it out, Devontae Walker at 14 and Trey Benson at 15. Devontae Walker has a lot of good qualities. There's a lot of things to like on tape with this guy. And I do believe that if he was in that situation in his sophomore season, maybe it could have been different. But Devontae Walker is a very strong prospect in this class. Wish we could see more out of the production. I don't know if I'm going to see him as anything more than a wide receiver 2 in the NFL and in Dynasty Fantasy Football. But I do think that top 15, top 20 wide receivers is the upside here for Devontae Walker. And then Trey Benson to round it out. Again, I think this running back position is very fluid. Trey Benson throws a wrench into it. Trey Benson out of Florida State. Look at him physically, you don't think that he's anything more than a short distance back with, who's a bruiser. Watch him on film. You'll see this guy has a surprising taste for big home run hits. This guy can do it. He could do it very, very quickly, and it catches defenses off guard. Trey Benson, I'm curious again to see exactly how big he is at the combine and what his 40 time is. I think his 40 time could surprise people. Very interested to see this guy, Trey Benson, because I do believe that if he hits those measurables, a lot of NFL teams, from what I'm seeing, already like this guy. So if he hits some measurables that teams are looking for, this guy could easily go in the early second round of the NFL draft, and that in turn would raise his draft stock a ton in Dynasty rookie drafts. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below and what questions you need answered about the 2024 Dynasty rookie class. And if you're looking for some buy low trade targets that you can get in Dynasty today, click on this video right here.